In Switzerland, the average age of a first-time homebuyer has officially hit 48 years old, with prices easily blowing past 1 million francs. Meanwhile, across Spain, Portugal, Ireland, and Poland, nearly 50% of young adults in their late 20s and early 30s are still sleeping in their childhood bedrooms. What used to be a basic milestone of adulthood has turned into a brutal financial hunger game for an entire generation across Europe. Hey friends, X-Money Lab here. Today, we are cracking open the European housing crisis to see exactly what went wrong. Who is actually hoarding all the real estate? And is there any secret hope left for young people trying to finally secure a house? The stagnant wage trap. Since the year 2010, average house prices across the European Union have exploded by over 55%. But wait, did your paycheck grow by 55% over that exact same time? Yeah, I did not think so. This massive disconnect between what we earn and what things cost is what I call the stagnant wage trap, and it is the absolute core of why buying a home feels like chasing a mirage. Let us look at the brutal math. A few decades ago, an entry-level salary was structurally designed to buy a modest starter house, fund a decent lifestyle, and still leave room for savings. Today, the purchasing power of that same typical salary has practically evaporated. While house prices took an elevator straight to the penthouse, wages decided to take the stairs and then tripped on the very first step. Take a look at the rental market, which actively prevents you from saving up. In Estonia, rents have skyrocketed by a staggering 208% since 2010. When the cost of simply renting a room triples, accumulating a hefty down payment becomes a mathematical fantasy. You are essentially trying to fill a swimming pool using a leaky paper cup. Because salaries have flatlined while property values launch into orbit, young renters in various parts of Europe are now forced to hand over 60 to 70% of their entire income just to secure a basic roof over their heads. Think about that reality for a second. If 70% of your hard-earned money goes immediately to a landlord, you are left fighting over crumbs for groceries, transportation, and healthcare. There is literally zero margin left to save. It is like entering a sprint while dragging a heavy iron safe behind you. Older generations often bought their family homes when the median house price was only 3 or 4 times their annual salary. Today, young people are facing ratios of 10, 12, or even 15 times their yearly income. So the next time a financial guru tells you to stop buying fancy coffee and cancel your streaming subscriptions, remind them that skipping a $5 latte does not magically bridge a 55% housing gap. But if working-class youth cannot afford these homes, who exactly is snatching them all up? 2. Airbnbs and empty homes. Picture this. By late 2025, new housing construction across the European Union is projected to meet a pathetic 50% of the total demand. That means for every 2 people desperately looking for a place to live, builders are only putting up 1 set of walls. It is a chronic game of musical chairs, and young people are the ones left standing when the music stops. So, why the massive shortage? First, building stuff has become ridiculously expensive and wrapped in endless red tape. But the darker truth is what happens to the few homes that actually do get built. Instead of going to a local family, whole blocks are getting swallowed whole by institutional investors. These massive corporate funds buy up properties in bulk, lock them away in their portfolios, and artificially squeeze the supply even tighter. And then, there is the tourist trap. Short-term rentals have completely hijacked the residential market. Landlords quickly realized they could make triple the money renting to weekend vacationers rather than to long-term local residents. Entire historic neighborhoods across Europe have been hollowed out, transformed into unofficial, unregulated hotels where permanent neighbors simply do not exist anymore. It has gotten so incredibly bad that local governments are finally hitting the panic button. Take a look at Spain. Barcelona recently announced a complete, sweeping ban on all short-term Airbnb-style rentals by the year 2028. They are literally kicking the short-term tourists out just to give young locals a fighting chance at securing a roof. But when you are only building half the homes you actually need, and the existing ones are treated like stock market assets, what happens when it is time to get a mortgage? 3. The bank of mum and dad. So, the supply is choked, and corporations are eating the rest. What happens when you finally scrape together some savings and march into a bank for a mortgage? You get laughed out of the lobby, unless your parents are holding your hand. Welcome to the era where generational wealth is the absolute unspoken prerequisite for getting a simple set of house keys. Across the European Union, the average age of a first-time homebuyer has steadily climbed to 31.3 years old. In the United Kingdom, the average age of a first-time buyer was 29 back in 1981, but it has steadily risen to 34 today. People are practically pushing middle age before they can even start building home equity. The major culprit here is the brutal combination of inflated prices, punishing interest rates, and strict credit barriers. A few years ago, borrowing money was practically free. But central banks across Europe aggressively jacked up interest rates to fight off inflation. That means not only is the house exponentially more expensive than it was a decade ago, but the cost of the mortgage itself has skyrocketed. When a bank runs your credit profile and tests your stagnant salary against a massive loan at today's rates, the math simply catches fire. Your debt-to-income ratio instantly fails their stress tests. The only way to lower that monthly payment and pass the bank's strict credit checks is to put down a massive, upfront cash deposit. And since young workers cannot save while paying exorbitant rents, there is only one bridge across that giant financial canyon. This is exactly why the Bank of Mom and Dad is now unofficially one of the largest and most important mortgage lenders in all of Europe. Young buyers are heavily relying on their parents to remortgage their own childhood homes, drain their retirement funds, or hand over early inheritances just to cover that impossible down payment gap. If your family does not have that kind of hidden equity to tap into, you are completely locked out of the game. This dynamic is quietly creating a terrifying two-tier society. You have the property haves, who inherit their way into the housing market, and the property have-nots, who are structurally doomed to pay rent forever. It is no wonder that about 30% of 25 to 34-year-olds across the European Union still live with their parents. They are not staying for the free laundry and home-cooked meals. They are staying because it is the only mathematical way to stockpile enough cash for a deposit. But relying on the previous generation to fund the current one is not a sustainable economic strategy. It is a desperate band-aid on a broken system. So, what happens when this pressure cooker finally pushes the middle class to the absolute breaking point? 4. Is it actually impossible? So, let us rip off the band-aid and answer the burning question. Is it actually impossible to buy a home in Europe right now? If you are an average earner living in a major city without a massive cash injection from your parents, the brutal, honest answer is yes. Traditional home ownership, the way our grandparents did it, is mathematically dead for the current generation. We are standing at the edge of a massive cultural shift, watching Europe slowly transition into a permanent renter economy. For decades, the standard life script was simple. You go to school, get a stable job, save up, buy a house, and build equity. That script has been completely shredded. Today, working hard and saving diligently is no longer enough to overcome the massive structural barriers of the modern real estate market. When a starter home costs a decade of your pre-tax income, and renting eats the majority of your paycheck, the math simply does not work. You cannot outsave a housing market that is rising exponentially faster than your annual wages. And renting is not exactly a safe, affordable harbor either. In countries like Estonia, rents have skyrocketed by a staggering 208% since 2010. That is not just standard inflation, that is a complete, devastating restructuring of the basic cost of living. When your rent triples in just over a decade, homeownership transforms from a delayed dream into a completely deleted one. You are stuck running on a financial treadmill that keeps speeding up, while the stop button has been permanently disabled. Because of this harsh economic reality, young Europeans are being forced to completely rewrite the rules of adulthood. We are seeing a massive wave of young professionals packing their bags and abandoning major economic hubs like London, Paris, and Munich. They are taking their skills and fleeing to secondary cities, cheaper neighboring countries, or even rural villages. The rapid rise of remote work makes this nomad lifestyle possible, but it has a dark side. When high-earning city workers flood into smaller towns, they accidentally bring the housing crisis with them, driving up local prices and pushing out the rural working class. It is a domino effect that shifts the affordability problem from one postcode to another. Others are getting creative out of pure, unfiltered desperation. Co-ownership is suddenly becoming a mainstream trend across the continent. We are not just talking about married couples anymore. Groups of friends, or even complete strangers on the internet, are pooling their cash together to buy a single property, legally splitting the mortgage to get a foot on the property ladder. It sounds like a fun sitcom premise until you realize the absolute legal nightmare that happens when one friend inevitably wants to move out, get married, and sell their share of the kitchen. What we are witnessing is the quiet death of the European property dream, but perhaps it is also the birth of a brand new financial mindset. Since buying a house is off the table for so many, young people are shifting their focus away from real estate entirely. If you cannot invest your savings into a brick-and-mortar house, you invest in the stock market, global index funds, or starting your own digital business. The cultural definition of success is actively changing. Owning a home is no longer the ultimate finish line of adulthood. Having a secure, long-term rental contract and a robust, diversified investment portfolio is becoming the new modern flex. It is about seeking genuine financial freedom without the heavy anchor of a massive 30-year mortgage tying you down to a single geographic location. But let us be completely clear. Relying on the extreme resilience of young people to just adapt and survive is not a long-term solution. The housing market is a foundational pillar of our society, and right now, it is structurally broken. Turning family homes into speculative assets for corporate investors while the working class fights over expensive rental scraps is a recipe for economic disaster. Solving this requires radical, sweeping intervention. We need massive government investment in public housing, aggressive taxes on empty properties, and strict legal limits on corporate real estate hoarding. Until homes are treated as places to live rather than lucrative lines on an investor's balance sheet, the crisis will only deepen. The housing market might be locked behind a golden gate, but that does not mean you have to give up on building wealth entirely. You have to play the hand you are dealt, learn the rules of this new economy, and find alternative, creative paths to financial independence. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this breakdown helpful, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to X Money Lab, and let me know in the comments how the housing market looks in your city. Until next time, keep your money smart and your future bright.